when creating your presentation background, leaving it with a solid color overall is okay. However, it is a bit boring. So there's a couple things that we can add to this. One is a vignette. So for this, I'm going to create a oval, and I'm going to be bringing this as close as I can to the edge, kind of like so. And then inverting my mask, filling this with black. Sorry, inverting my selection. Now under blur, I'm going to do continuous blur. I'll bring up this window here. And as we can see, it's giving me this nice vignette. Now, when this window pops up, it might look like this for you. And then just go ahead and move the slider to the point where it starts looking more softer. Now we can see this banding going on here. So in order to circumvent that, I'm going to go in and add a little bit of noise. So you only need about 2, maybe 3% of noise in order to break that up. So I'm going to stay with 2. And that breaks up the banding. Okay, so this is the first option that you can do. The second option is going online and finding some textural elements that we can put into the background. Now this can be anything from a tree, random shapes, patterns, a whole bunch of stuff, even this weird stuff right here. So I've already pulled some images off the internet. I'm going to drag them in and see what we can come up with this. So let's go ahead and make this bigger. Kind of like so. I'm going to hit OK. Now, it probably would be best to drag this underneath your name and email and your vignette if you want to keep it. So for this particular exercise, I'll turn that off. And now we can tone down the overall image, bring it back. We can try a layer mode and see if that will give us a better response. Or even overlay, that gives us a little bit more. Now, keep in mind this white that's on the picture is not the greatest for me, so I'm going to turn back my vignette and I get a little bit of something like this. This can work. However, if this random shape is interfering with your project, this may not be the best choice. So we can even tone this down. I kind of like it like this, so I get a little bit more of that texture feel to it. This could work. Okay, but let's try something else. So I have here a more sci-fi-ish pattern. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger as well. Now sometimes these patterns are best when they're a bit smaller, but we'll try this out first. So let's go ahead and maybe do an overlay or even a soft light, and then we will have to start toning this down. So this gives me something that will break up my background, won't distract from my overall project that I'll be placing on top of this. So this could work. One thing to try is to maybe not making this bigger, but actually making it smaller. So I'm going to make it half. I'm going to turn that off. Duplicate this 4 times so I can get a nice pattern out of it. No. That's why. So as we can see, the smaller pattern works a bit better. But once again, this is not properly lined up, so if I wanted to use this, I'd want to line it up correctly first, and then tile it across my image. Okay? But let's see what else we can do. So I have this other pattern right here that is a bit busier. So if we try and use this, I am going to go ahead and see if this tiles. It doesn't tile 100%. However, with this particular exercise, I think what this would bring it across. I'll go ahead and just grab all three of these and make them bigger. So we would want to tone this down a bit. And please keep in mind, patterns on a presentation background are there to break up the solid color behind it, not so much for it to come into the foreground. So if I increase this, for instance, now it's more in the foreground and my product will have a hard time standing out. If I decrease this to about right here, so it's kind of faint, but just enough so we can see it, this will work out really well for my presentation. Okay, it's just enough to give us an idea that there's something breaking up. Now, patterns can be used to complement our project. So if we have a sci-fi themed project, we can put in a sci-fi textural background. If we have a medieval project, we can bring in something that looks more medieval, maybe like a old paper or something like that, and we fit that into the background. So theming your presentation background to your project is possible, but not needed. Okay. Best thing to do is to create one presentation background and then use that for the majority of time of your projects. Like a good 5-6 projects is good, and then you can always reevaluate if you need to switch to a different background or not. Okay, the last thing we can talk about is if your project is gray and your background is gray, that might slightly clash. So one thing that you can do is change the color of your background ever so slightly. So if I go in under Hue and Saturation, which can be found under Image and Adjust, you'll find it here. I can click on the Colorize, and we can see by default it changed the color. Now I can come in and desaturate this a bit. This is probably going to be too much, but here I have a nice tint to my overall background, or I can come in, see, give it more of a red, maybe a blue. Okay, so all these things are possible. If my project has a lot of red in it, then I might want to come in and do a complementary color like a blue or maybe even a green, so to help my project stand out. Right, this was the more advanced version for presentation backgrounds, and I hope this will help your project.